Over the past few years, I've been getting really into internet horror, hence this shirt and hat. I've always been into all things creepy and weird, so this was just a natural extension of that. I found myself inexplicably drawn to things like Liminal Spaces, the original Backrooms post, and analog horror series like Local 58 and the Mandela catalog. Honestly, I think a lot of the horror content coming from individuals online surpasses even some of the big budget horror films being made these days. But it's not just the spookiness that captivates me. There's something more to all these things. A photo of an empty school, an old local news channel, an early YouTube video. These all contain remnants of times gone by. You don't only feel unnerved when looking at them, you also feel a little bit nostalgic. One thing about me, I'm a sucker for nostalgia. A good part of the videos on my channel are me looking back at things I remember from my childhood. My first ever video was a retrospective of one of my most favorite things from my early teen years, Flipnote Hatena. So you can imagine my delight when I discovered that there is an ARG that centers around Flipnote Hatena called the June Archive. I wanted to release this video to coincide with the 1-year anniversary of my Flipnote Hatena deep dive video, but at this point, that was like a month ago. 2024 has already been a bit rough, okay? If you're not super familiar with Flipnote Hatena, I recommend going to watch my deep dive video first. I'll link it down in the description, but in case you can't stomach the high-pitched buzzing that I've been told is present throughout the video, I'll give a brief overview. Flipnote Studio was a free app for the Nintendo DSi, the successor to the Nintendo DS. It allowed users to make simple flipbook-style animations using the touchscreen. Nintendo partnered with Hatena, a Japanese web services provider, to create Flipnote Hatena, an online service that could be accessed through the DSi or a computer and allowed users to share their Flipnote creations and comment on, download, and add stars to the Flipnotes of others. It became quite popular and garnered a tight-knit community, but as with just about every Nintendo online service, it was short-lived, shutting down on May 31st, 2013 after just 4 years. With this shutdown, every Flipnote that had ever been posted to the service was lost. This was my personal burning of the Library of Alexandria. But you should never underestimate the power of a dedicated fan base. Fans had recreated a fully functional Hatena clone as early as 2014 and dubbed it Pseudomemo. Remember Pseudomemo because it will be important later. This same group also worked on compiling an archive of almost every Flipnote that had ever been posted to Hatena, which became available to the public in May of 2022. These people have truly done more for society than any member of any government. The June Archive and Restoration Project is an ARG that centers around Flipnote Hatena's final moments on May 31st, 2013, and a mysterious group that aims to archive and restore the Flipnotes that were lost in the subsequent shutdown. It primarily uses Flipnotes as a medium to tell the story, often in very creative ways. If you don't know what an ARG is, it stands for Augmented or Alternate Reality Game. It's a type of narrative or game that normally takes place on the internet and involves audience interactivity and puzzle solving. They often, but not always, contain horror elements. One of the most well-known ARGs is Marble Hornets, the Slenderman ARG that was eventually turned into a movie of questionable quality. They have also been used as viral marketing campaigns for certain media properties. The June Archive was created by Serial Bolby, or just Serial Bowl, in April of 2022, and is ongoing to this day. It can be accessed through 3 platforms: Twitter, YouTube, and Pseudomemo. The Twitter account was the first June Archive social media account. They posted their first tweet on April 7th, 2022, announcing that they had acquired a number of Flipnote files to sort through and archive. They posted the first Flipnote they managed to archive later that same day, and it quickly became clear that not everything was as it seemed. The account posts all the Flipnotes in the series, as well as interacting with the community and character, but in terms of lore, there's not really anything that happens that is exclusive to the Twitter account. A few days after the Twitter account first posted, the YouTube account was established, uploading the first archived Flipnotes on April 12th. This is the platform that fans primarily use to engage with the series, with lots of theorizing and speculation taking place in the comment sections of the videos. They have uploaded 24 videos to date, with many of them amassing hundreds of thousands of views. All of them were created using Flipnote Studio. Pseudomemo is where the audience interaction comes into play. Flipnote Hatena had a feature where you could download other people's Flipnotes, and assuming the original creator hadn't locked them, edit them and repost them as a spin-off. Pseudomemo retains this feature, and Serial Bowl cleverly makes use of it in the June Archive. For example, downloading some Flipnotes and editing them in Flipnote Studio reveals hidden secrets, like an unused audio file that says blue capital E, and text that can only be seen once you turn off one of the layers. There was also a small section of the ARG where players could determine what happened next in the story. They had to input certain actions by downloading the original Flipnote, editing it with their choice, and uploading it as a spin-off. I'll talk more about this in a bit. These interactive Flipnotes were initially the only ones uploaded to Sudomemo on an account called JA Staff, but the rest of the Flipnotes have now also been uploaded on Cereal Bowl's personal account. All of these accounts will be linked in the description, by the way. Now, I'm not going to go episode by episode and explain in depth everything that happens. One, because there are already multiple videos out there that do that, and two, because I really want to encourage you guys to go and watch the whole thing for yourself and form your own opinions. That being said, I will give an overview of my interpretation of the story. I believe the story can be loosely organized into 3 arcs. I'll call them the Popular Flipnote arc, the Staff Interaction arc, and the Chicken Wing arc. The Popular Flipnote arc mainly consists of Flipnotes that start out normal before going a bit downhill. They are usually edited versions of Flipnotes that were widely popular in Hatena's heyday. For example, the very first June Archive video starts out as an actual Flipnote that was uploaded to Hatena towards the end of its lifespan, that features the iconic orange frog dancing and singing to a song called Goodbye So Soon. A few seconds in, however, the Flipnote starts to glitch unnervingly, and an image of a real dead frog appears using the feature that allows you to insert pictures taken with a DSi camera. The video immediately following this will, I'm sure, be familiar to my fellow Hateners. Hatenites? Anyways, it's the classic Fred Flipnote food criminal, using that one Mario sprite that everyone used. But the Flipnote doesn't proceed as it should, the song stopping and the words "you can't find them" echoing. Mario exits his house into an apocalyptic wasteland, and this is where we get the first glimpse of what people have been calling Hatena City. It seems that all the characters in our favorite Flipnotes exist together in some sort of Flipnote Hatena pocket dimension. We also get the first appearance of the Clock Cat, a figure that looms over Hatena City counting down its last moments. Currently it reads 11 o'clock, with the implication being that it is 11 p.m. on May 31st, 2013, the final moments of Flipnote Hatena's life, hence why the city is desolate and barren. Over the next few Flipnotes, we see the denizens of Hatena City start to realize that something is wrong as the clock ticks forward, desperately trying to grapple with what's happening and look for a way out as their friends disappear before their eyes. Mysterious vials of red liquid appear repeatedly throughout these Flipnotes and others in the series, but it's not yet clear what they are, though they surely must be important. Interspersed with these Flipnotes are 2 archive announcement videos where we are introduced to another important character, Fuzz the Cat, mascot for the June Archives. This little guy is drawn in a style highly reminiscent of one that was popular on Hatena back in the day, but don't let his cuteness fool you. We get a glimpse of a more sinister side to Fuzz almost right away. In these videos, he reveals that he is looking for something in the archives, and alludes to having found a way to return to the past and change a few things, thereby altering the present. The second archive announcement includes letters and symbols that briefly flash across the screen, and when put together, lead to an unlisted video called DSi Safety Parody 2 by Snowy Owl. This video details how to protect yourself from something called a memory virus, a type of parasite that implants false memories in those it infects and spreads from mind to mind until it becomes strong enough to manifest in the real world. This brings us to the Staff Interaction arc. We switch from following the denizens of Hatena City to checking in with one of the archivists working on the June Archive project. As alluded to earlier, players were able to control some of the actions of the archivist by downloading and spinning off the Flipnotes on Sudomemo, such as entering a code on the computer, which they ended up getting wrong, and drawing one of those mysterious vials for Fuzz on their DSi so he can use it for something. Fuzz seems to be getting more powerful as he is able to manipulate the archivist's surroundings. It seems he has been successful in building a time machine and tries to convince the archivist to return to the past with him, an offer they refuse to the anger of Fuzz. This is probably my favorite arc because it includes some of the most impressive art, animation, sound design, and voice acting in the whole series. Next, we have the final arc for the time being, the Chicken Wing arc. Anyone who used Hatena at all has almost certainly come across some iteration of the chicken wing, hot dog, and bologna Flipnote, and the Flipnotes in this arc are all based off of it. On April Fool's Day last year, they just uploaded the original Flipnote unedited, which I thought was kind of funny. In the next one, the chicken wing expresses its desire to live forever, and in another, a warning is issued to the inhabitants of Hatena City that their impending doom is nigh. I wanted to highlight a particularly chilling line from this video. Keep your 16-digit FSID on you at all times. It will be the only way to identify your remains, if your remains are ever found. This reminded me of yet another ARG I love, Local 58, and the line from their video Contingency. This message will repeat until there are none to read it. We see the shadowy figure that appeared in a few of the popular Flipnote arc videos seemingly going after some of the Hatena City inhabitants who are trying to escape. Finally, the chicken wing gets swallowed up by the void, apparently bringing the chicken wing arc to a close, since the video immediately following this doesn't use the chicken wing Flipnote. This next video is currently the most recent one, being uploaded in January of this year. It looks like we're getting even closer to the Hatena shutdown, as Hatena City has now been engulfed in a void that parts of it are being sucked into. Could this be the beginning of a new arc? Only time will tell. The June archive raises a ton of questions that we don't yet have answers for. As with any ARG, fans have taken to theorizing on what certain elements of the story could mean and speculating on what direction the series is heading in. I'll go over a few of the more prominent theories. Note that I didn't come up with any of these myself, I'm not any good at shit like that. One of the theories that seems to be widely accepted by the community is that Fuzz the Cat is actually a memory virus. If you recall, a memory virus is an entity that implants false memories in people in order to essentially become real. If this is indeed the case, then perhaps the reason Fuzz wants to return to the past is so that he can insert himself into old Flipnotes to make more people remember him, thereby making him stronger. This could be the reason why he worked with the archivist to create the June archive in the first place, because it's clear his motives go far beyond just wanting to archive old Flipnotes. What his ultimate goal is, though, we just don't know yet. Another element that is often speculated about is the red vials, what exactly they are and what their purpose is. I've seen several theories about this, one of which being that the vials closely resemble the memory bar in Flipnote Studio that denoted how large your Flipnote could be and how much space you had left. The vials could then be people's memories, and if Fuzz is indeed a memory virus, he wants to acquire them so that he can infect more people. With regards to what's going on in Hatena City, some figures we repeatedly see are the Clock Cat, the Void Teeth Eyeball Monster, and the shadowy caped figure. When the Clock Cat sucks up the Flipnote inhabitants, it's believed that it's archiving them, although where they end up after this is unknown. The Flipnotes who are less fortunate get eaten by the Void Monster, which may represent Flipnotes being deleted during the shutdown. The shadowy figure also seems to be going after Flipnotes, although no one really seems to know what his motives are. I have seen it pointed out that he closely resembles a character from popular Flipnote creator Boss's stick figure fights. There are a ton of other little clues and puzzles that the community are still working on figuring out, like the repeated appearance of the numbers 573 and messages written in binary code, so if this sounds at all interesting to you, I highly recommend getting involved in the community on the June Archive Discord server, which I will link in the description, or let me know your theories in the comments. Finally, I want to talk about one of the things that draws me to the June archive the most. The animation and the story and the puzzles are all really cool, but what sticks with me most of all is the series' themes. There are a few themes that can be found when analyzing this story, but the one that has resonated most strongly with me is that of nostalgia and being unable to let go of the past. As I said before, I'm a slut for nostalgia. It was a major factor in me starting this channel because I wanted an excuse to talk about things I remembered fondly from my past, like Flipnote Hatena. What some fans of the June archive may not know is that this ARG is not the first appearance of Fuzz the Cat. Fuzz has been an OC of Cereal Bowls, who used to be known on Hatena as J-Zork, since the original Hatena days, and appeared in many of his Flipnotes then. He actually made a YouTube video on his personal channel a few years ago, officially retiring the character. That's why I think it's significant that he chose to include Fuzz as a major character in this ARG. Fuzz is symbolic of the past, a time that he's trying to return to. I also think it's interesting that Fuzz is positioned as the antagonist of the series. He wants to return to the past at any cost, even if it alters the present, signifying to the viewer the dangers of excessive nostalgia. He even says it himself.
Isn't nostalgia just the worst?
I think I've always been a bit of a nostalgic person by nature, probably stemming from my resistance to change in my life, but this nostalgic streak started to grow during 2020. I think every joke that could possibly be made about this year has already been made by now, so I'm not even gonna try. Like everyone else in the world, I was stuck at home and suddenly found myself with a whole lot of time on my hands. Some people took up baking or crocheting while in lockdown, But I discovered that Billboard.com has an archive of every weekly Hot 100 chart from whenever the Hot 100 charts began in like the 60s, and used it to create a playlist of every song I remembered that came out between 2000 and 2011. I used a similar Much Music archive to find the Canada-specific hits. For those who don't know, Much Music is like the Canadian version of MTV. That playlist currently has 3 days worth of music on it and took me weeks to compile. Listening to these songs took me right back to my childhood, listening to the radio in the car with my parents, or laying on my stomach in my bedroom listening to my boombox. The nostalgia I felt then became addictive. I then went on to join the nostalgia community on Tumblr, yes, that is a thing, where we reblogged pictures of things like discontinued snacks, McDonald's play places, and PS2 startup screens. This helped me continue to get my nostalgia fix. I was in art school at the time, and I even centered many of my projects around this feeling of nostalgia from my childhood. The more uncertain the present and future became, the more I would cling to the past. I would lie awake in bed at night, longing for a way to go back, to recapture the simplicity, happiness, and innocence of my childhood. If Fuzz had offered me a trip in his time machine then, I absolutely would have taken it. This only intensified when I moved out of my parents' house and took on more adult responsibilities. I desperately wanted to return to a time when all I had to worry about was whether my action replay was going to corrupt my Pokemon Platinum save file, and not paying rent and going grocery shopping. It got to a point where it was genuinely affecting my mental health. I was depressed because I thought that I would never be that happy or carefree again, that the best years of my life were behind me. And based on the comments on the June archive videos, I'm not alone in feeling this way. This theme clearly resonated with a lot of people.
Where is everyone?
Oh, me no.
Where did they go?
They grew up. They moved on. And you, why do you still live in the past?
But no matter how hard you try, you can't return to the past. You can't recreate those moments, those feelings. You can maybe get close by listening to old songs, looking at old photos, watching old flip notes, but it'll never be quite the same because you've changed, just as all these classic flip notes we see end up being changed and corrupted. If you spiral too hard into nostalgia, it can prevent you from living your life in the present. How often is it that we don't appreciate what we have right in front of us until we look back on it days, months, or years later? Not to mention that nostalgia lies to us. It's easy to view the past through rose-colored glasses. I find myself longing to be 13 again because I'm only remembering the good parts about being 13 and not the countless shitty parts. Sure, I may have been more carefree then, but my life is objectively better now in so many ways. At some point, you do just have to move on. Instead of desperately trying to relive the past, be glad that it happened at all and shaped you into the person that you are today. The glory days of Flipnote Hatena are never coming back, but it was fun while it lasted. It created lasting friendships, sparked people's interest in art and animation, and left us all with some fond memories. Hatena will never truly be dead as long as we're around to remember it.
Memory is the key to reality. If it burns down and no one remembers it was there, it's almost as if there was nothing there to begin with.
I hope that made any sense. I do feel like I was kind of rambling a bit. Again, please go check out the June archive on YouTube, Twitter, or Pseudomemo if you haven't already. I seriously think it's one of the coolest pieces of art I've seen online, and I can't wait to see how it concludes. Cereal Bowl said on Pseudomemo that he's hoping to have the bulk of the story completed by the end of this year, so we shouldn't have to wait too much longer to get some answers to our questions, and maybe I'll make another video on it when it's finished. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, liking and subscribing is very much appreciated. I'll catch y'all in the next one.